Hello and welcome to All Killer No Filler. I'm Eric Dick along with co-host Kyle Guilfoyle. It is Friday afternoon. We're in the middle of a company-wide fitness challenge. So these guys are taking a break from their busy, calendar day of push-ups, squats, and sit-ups to talk about the creative process when it comes to D2C advertising. What we have here today is the Pilothouse Creative Brain Trust. We have Cam Wind, the creative director of Pilothouse. We have Robin Holdsworth, who is a creative designer, and we have Evan O'Gorman, who is a content manager. And all of these guys just make sure that all of our clients' ads look amazing. Cam is sort of at the head of the design team. But obviously design is sort of it's not the unsung hero. It's the main hero of all that we do. You can have as many toggles as you want when it comes to advertising, but if your creatives aren't resonating with people, it's literally meaningless. So to start us off the top, who here has a design-based value rocket that they can share with the audience? Just anything that you'd give a little tip about what you'd be doing with your creatives this time of year, any kind of like high value tip.
Ev, I'm gonna steal yours. This is not design.
I was
based,
gonna
so
say it. I knew you were gonna come.
I'm gonna steal. Okay, Rob. I'll leave all of the nice looking design stuff to you, Robin. Or I'm gonna steal one of Evan's books. Hey, you could have gone first. All right. So if you're a brand, you're an agency, you're an advertiser, whoever, everyone's thinking about sexy, polished creatives that you can make this time of year, leading into Christmas time. Like the simplest hack for something that we can make work, just take a photo of like a box or your distribution center or a bunch of your products in a pile, just like affiliate as you think it might be. It totally works. Your customers dig it. It's super effective.
Let's dig in why that is. Is it that sort of idea of behind the scenes or building in public? People like to see the inner workings of the machine.
I mean, totally. Like, Ev, I think we actually hand this off because I know, like, with one of our clients, like, you've done a lot of work, not only with just like photography of like stuff in boxes, whatever, but actually going a step further and showing what the team looks like behind the scenes, like the team behind the packaging, kind of like adding a little bit of personality to the brand. I think there's actually a couple layers to it that Ev could probably speak to.
Yeah, it actually wasn't the nugget I thought you were going to steal, so I'm totally fine with you stealing that. Yeah, no, for sure. It's something that we've used on a few accounts now, and it's one of those things I've noticed where something you'll notice in like when you're working with a lot of different clients in different industries is that different content works in different ways. But this is something that we always see work really, really well. Top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, wherever you put it, it just seems to like 9 times out of 10 perform. Again, going back to what Cam said, there is a lot of layers to it. One of them is it gives that organic feel that UGC gives, right? So like people see it and they don't really think that they're being hit with an ad immediately, and that really hits home with a lot of audiences. Another layer that it hits is urgency, right? So especially bottom of funnel, if you've already hit people with ads about your product, and then you start putting in these imagery of like warehouses with boxes of the product, and you start hitting messaging like, we're running out of stock, like this is the last stock we have of this product. That's like a really good way to hit that urgency without just saying, you could just get a picture of the product and write urgency on it, but I mean, who's to say if that's true, right?
It's that meta angle. It's that we always talk about the Chekhov thing about it's not, don't tell me about the light of the moon, show me it glinting off a broken glass on the sidewalk or whatever. So just showing another angle of, you've got these pristine product images, but then when you show what it looks like, first of all, you're pushing a large volume of these. That's the other aspect I'd imagine, is it shows that a lot of people are buying these products, but also, yeah, it layers in that just other perspective on the operation of the brand.
And the last thing to it as well, which I think really hits home for a lot of people, is it gives that like mystery. I think that's what really makes it work at top of funnel. I was surprised with this one client we had, and it crushed top of funnel as well as bottom funnel. I was really surprised. But then when I look back at it, it has that mystery aspect, right? It's like what's in the box. It's like the film Seven, right? When Brad Pitt
what's in the box?
At you.
What's in the box?
I think that has a big play in it as well, because it does create curiosity and does create a really high CTR. For that.
It's awesome. Well, why don't we keep the value rockets firing? Evan, I'm curious what you thought Cam was what he was gonna drop.
So this was something that I gave over to you guys for I think it was a DTC meme you ran a while ago, and that is the quote that it was actually a client said to us on a call, was that they were happy to let performance dictate the creative, and that for me is possibly the biggest learning I've had in this industry. And that's not to say that you can only have creative that's based on previous performance. That's not to say that at all, but letting that performance guide where you're putting your creative energy into and what your creative planning is really, really important.
And what could you give us an example of what that looks like in practice? Like, what are some practical examples of performance driving the creative?
So let's say, for example, you are launching a new campaign, your new product is launching, something like that, something that's relatively new, whether it's a promo, whether it's a completely brand new ad account, whatever it is. And let's say you have like 5 different concepts, shall we call them? So like you've 5 different types of creative that all look different and all feel different. And you run those, whether it's in a DCT or whether it's in some kind of battleground test, whatever that may be. And at the end of that, you see that one of those 5, again, just picking numbers here, one of those 5 really stands out compared to the rest of them. When you're doing your second round, or when you're starting to build out content that you want to really pump massive money behind and really try to scale whatever it is you're trying to sell, there's no reason why that wouldn't be, your first priority for creatives moving forward on that winner, right? Your audience, the people who you are advertising to, who you want to buy the product, which Facebook has already determined, they are responding to that creative concept. So they're to ignore that and to you should continue doing the others as well, right? And testing new things. You got to be testing new things all the time, but to not put your priority from a scale perspective onto what's already worked before, I mean, that has to be what you do.
Whereas maybe some of the brand owners are using preconceived ideas of the way they want their brand to look. Do we have any examples of situations? Because I know, Robin, I'm looking at your points here too, and I know everything that we've ever done with you. Robin has done a lot of the design. He did the logo for D2C and DTC and a lot of the stuff that we've done. And I know you put a huge amount of importance on the of like polished quality assets, high amount of quality control. How do you balance that? And what do you say to clients? Have we ever had clients that won't go a performative route, even though it's working really, really well because it's off brand? Like, does that conversation happen regularly?
I wouldn't say regularly, but it does happen where a client wants to have so many different things in their advertisement, right? And we only have 1080 pixels by 1080 pixels to show what we can convey to the audience in Instagram or Facebook. And we have to kind of simplify things and make sure that we are displaying their product in a nice, polished, professional way. At the same time, we're stopping people from scrolling. And the way to do that with a simplified approach is you got to be really clever. And it's a challenge to be clever because we only have this little box to work with. So that's the main goal, main strategy.
Stand out, appear clever.
I feel like I've said this quote a million times, and it's like one of my favorite. I think like the worst thing that you can do as a brand owner or as an advertiser is like just do everything perfect from a design perspective and just have no one notice, and it just instantly gets scrolled by. Like it's our job to either I guess there's 2 things. We got to grab people's attention or convey value. And for us, our language on the creative side is conveying value through some kind of graphic or video through that 1x1, screen that we're giving people, or ideally do both of those things at the same time. But if we're working with brand owners who think like their brand is in this box, like Facebook is such a massive opportunity. And I think people don't necessarily understand that like we have the ability, our buyers have the ability is to toggle things on and off as needed. And if we experiment and push the limits as what they think their brand is or their product is or like how it should be perceived, if we push harder on one angle and it works, like why the hell would you not chase that avenue and push further down that road? If it doesn't work, like we can just turn it off. That's no problem at all. But at the end of the day, like we're marrying like the polish and the design with performance. And like we've seen stuff work, and we're just going to continue to push.
And so really just let the numbers back it up, right? When you've got a situation where you're going down an avenue, like I guess you're not pushing the boundaries to make clients uncomfortable in any way, right? You're not, we're not pushing to that extent, but we still want to, but you still got to stand out. It's an interesting conundrum for sure.
Yeah, and like I was funny enough, I was just saying this to Ev in like a side conversation. Like I think I think ugly and janky in my mind are like two different things. I think you can have performance-based creatives, and I'm not saying we make ugly creatives. You can have performance-based creatives that someone might view as ugly, but that doesn't mean it's janky. Things are properly designed, like things are aligned, there's proper spacing. Like we of course can
They're not
incorporate
sloppy.
all of the, yeah, it's
Yeah.
not a sloppy design, but we know like if you smash like some copy maybe over top of a product or over top of a watch or over top of whatever, like just going against what you might think is best practice, at the end of the day, people are going to be going through the feed and it's going to be like, well, what the hell is that doing there? But it's an intentional break of the design. So like you have to think about it when you're making this content.
Yeah, and in fact, in my own experience, I've noticed that the stuff that seems the ugliest or seems like lowest production value often performs the best. And I'm guessing you guys have seen, you know, sort of both sides of the track. But like, why is it that so? Is it just because that, you know, things are designed properly that it works, or is it because it's like more native to the platform? Like why do you think that is sometimes that creative that isn't, you know, super polished performs better?
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean it's a good question. I don't know if, you know, there's one true answer to that question, but I think from an experience perspective, like people are so used to just being bombarded with sponsored or advertised posts like through their feeds. You need to find a way to break the noise. And if it's just a simple design choice that we use when making content, that's just a really simple way to approach creation of content that hopefully you can break that scroll pattern. And that's what we're often trying to do, especially top of funnel. If our job of top of funnel is just to grab clicks in an effective way, like why not try and hack those creatives and you know, grab their clicks. That way, when we push them further down the funnel, maybe we start to move towards the other end of the spectrum, and it's really like conveying value with cleaner design and cleaner design choices. But it's like it's constantly moving.
And
yeah.
and I remember a while ago we were just experimenting by, like, you know, flipping the orientation of a creative, and that for a while was working really well. I'm wondering if you know, right now or in the last little while, if you guys have noticed any sort of creative hacks that you could share with the audience that have been working.
I like that one that we were posting. Like, I just love staying in touch with the creative team, you know, following the Slack, because you guys are constantly sharing innovative ideas and innovative like hooks that you can try in your creatives. That one that I saw yesterday was that influencer who was taking those slow motion videos of dropping her phone. She was dropping the phone and then it was giving like a full shot of her body. And it's like, you can kind of with, you know, with the clothes that she was wearing, that she was promoting, and you can sort of like, I see these things cropping up and then you'll see them in some of our ads. And I love it when we can find interesting visual hooks or visual ideas that you can then see work across multiple ads. So you can still have this layer of like high quality content, high quality branded content, but you can throw in these elements, these hacky elements, in order to sort of like attention hack in a way, right?
Yeah, part of the fun is experimenting. Like we have a lot of strategies that we use with our clients, but initially when we get a new client, we have to gain their trust. So usually we start with simple polished ads that are very branded and go along with the guidelines that the brand has. Then a few months down the road, they give us the opportunity to experiment, and that's where the fun begins. And that's where you gotta be clever and you know, sometimes these random approaches do really well. So when the client gets our trust, they're like, okay, well, you guys are doing a really good job so far. Let's try these random approaches that you're talking about. And more often than not, they get people taking a double look at the screen, like, wait, what is that? When they're scrolling, you know, these scroll stopper ads. So that approach works usually further down the road after working with the client for a little bit, but it's a lot of fun.
Trust with the user and trust with the client. It's all one big continuum there.
To add to Robin's point there as well, like that also has happened and works on the contrary as well, right? Like we might have a client who comes on, or like, you know, you as somebody watching this who has a brand and working in an agency or whatever, like you might see that performance isn't there, right? Like you've just joined and like you're keeping things very close to brand guidelines, but the performance is not there. You know, your front end metrics, your click-through costs, they're not there, and your back end stuff, your purchase and your ROAS isn't there as well. And that's another scenario where we've had those conversations with like, okay, the creative isn't working, but the creative that we're running is very, there's not much variation in it. So let's try something else. And again, back to Robin's point as well, like that'll come to a stage where like that's when we'll start to be allowed to experiment as well with new concepts and new formats.
So you guys have 3 different titles, and you brought up some interesting things. You really brought up, and Cam brought it up earlier about really watching metrics, ROAS, click-through rate, all these things. And I feel like in some organizations, the connection between performance and creative is not very well established. I know with working with some of the outsourced creative companies, that's a bit of an issue. You tell them what to do, you're going to get something back, but they're not looking into your funnel. They're not finding out. They're not innovating on always what's performing unless you're telling them exactly what to do. But I know that's something our team does well. How does our team work? How does performance data get translated to our frontline designers? Are they in the accounts themselves?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, it comes down to how we structured our teams. And this has been, a slow burn ever since the beginning of Pilothouse, but we basically have broken our creative team into kind of client facing roles and like creative killers in the background. And those client facing roles, like it's someone in a content manager position, and really like what their job is to be an extension of our clients' marketing teams, to understand the product, understand the creative requirements, brand guidelines, all of these like more granular details that we need to deal with on the creative side, but then also collaborate with our media buyers. And that's that feedback loop that you're talking about. So, I mean, every day, all of our content managers have access to Ads Manager. They go through a process with all of our onboardings of our CMs. They go through a process where for the first month or two, they're either learning directly from a senior content manager or going through Blueprint or all the other resources that we have in the background. So it's almost like this hybrid of a media buyer and like a creative problem solver. And then what they do is they kind of take all of the data from Facebook that they're getting from their buyers, as well as their own interpretations of the data, crafting creative tasks, and then sending them off to people that kind of are the unsung heroes that are working in the background, like Robin, who we have graphic designers, we have copywriters, we've got page builders, we've got video editors, designers, and they're actually building the content. But it's always like performance driven, right? Like we're identifying gaps or opportunities and we're chasing that. But I think that like with our most successful our clients, like we always kind of allocate at least 20 to 30% of our time for CMs to be chasing new objects, new opportunities, whatever. If we're seeing other advertisers, other products doing a killer job, like how can we incorporate that into our own content strategy and building out new tickets with our designers? So that's kind of like the feedback loop. And then of course, like once things are built, we kind of pass things off to media buyers. They build out campaigns around them. And then it's almost like you like meet it on the other side, they go through a couple of days of learning. We do weekly syncs with our media buyers. Maybe it was launched on a Monday, maybe we sync up on the next Monday and say like, how did this do? Did it shit the bed? Did it crush? Was there certain elements within the creatives that crushed? Maybe do we want to pull on certain threads? And it's this like never ending like testing feedback loop that, we have with our buyers that seems to be working pretty well.
And part of that is your creative starts to take on a cadence or a velocity, right? Are there best practices around what that velocity should be, or is it wildly different from client to client? And how do you know how much creative you need to be flowing in, or what that cadence looks like?
Yeah, I think it's like a, it depends question, and like feel free to jump in on the other, because Ed, Rob, you guys probably have some good stuff on this too. But
what do we start like clients out with?
Yeah, kind of like it depends. Like when with our new clients as they flow through onboarding, it's kind of like a full court press, if you will, like on content. The velocity of content that we're pushing into Facebook is super high. Like it's a lot of content. I don't know if I have an exact number on some of the stuff we're making, but it's 30, 40, 50 different pieces of creative within a month that we're pushing into some of these clients. And it's just a battleground for the first, 1, 2, 3 months that we're working with them. And we kind of land on some evergreen content pages, et cetera, that we know we can lean on. And then we kind of get lighter on the testing and start thinking about a broader picture, like what new opportunities can we chase, et cetera. But it depends.
Interesting. Anything to add there, Robin? You were basically going to say the same thing.
No, I mean, I totally agree with Cam, but for a designer, one of her, best strategies is throwing spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks. But at the same time, we strategically throw the spaghetti on the wall, right? We don't just randomly choose. If we're going to use a UGC influencer for a watch company, we're not going to hire a Carrot Top or something, we yeah. But
you never know with Carrot Top. He might work. He might be ready to come back into culture. You never know.
Yeah, we gotta follow some guidelines as well with this spaghetti on the wall. But one of my favorite parts of this job is to not just see what works, but to also make the brand and the company and the owners of the company look really good on Facebook or Instagram. And when we get someone coming back to us and saying to the media buyer or the content manager, like, I can't believe you guys made this ad. It looks so great. Like, not only did it crush, but we look so awesome to the rest of the world. And thank you very much. So when we hear that, or when I hear that, that gives me goosebumps. So love hearing that kind of thing. It gives me a lot of drive to keep doing cool things in the future.
I love it. I love like one of our clients is a home apparel or home accessories company, let's say. And I'm interested in your creatives on that, Rob, because I see the creatives come out and it's like the room, you're just basically showing this piece of home housewares on a backdrop with cool colors, with cool lettering. And it's nothing revolutionary, but it's like you seem to be able to innovate sort of week in, week out, month in, month out, all just with like different color palettes and different light profiles. And it's all very subtle stuff. And it's nothing, but it all stands out really well. And it all appears to be doing quite well. Can you talk a little bit about that sort of like that creative process of always finding like the new kind of like the new really cool thing?
Yeah. I mean, when we're throwing the spaghetti against the wall, strategically, like, we have to have our design fundamentals in place, right? Like, we have to understand what padding is. We have to understand what alignment is. We have to understand what centering things or justification means. And when we're doing these random approaches, sure, it looks random, but it's still pleasing to the eye because we've done it properly with these fundamentals in mind. So without getting into the, without getting into the fundamentals of what they are, I use this approach on all of my designs so that you're still looking twice, but there's still no eye strain when you're looking at it.
Interesting.
Like, just I'm looking at an ad library, and like it's like a really simple hack as like an extension of what Robin's talking about, like something that's often underlooked, like negative space. Like, if you just take your image, if it's a 1x1, just shrink it 20% and you've got a bar of negative space around your image, just like instantly, that's going to be a little bit different than having a full, like an image full bleed all the way through. Like, just that little subtle adjustment. Or maybe you like shrink it 20% and then there's a certain element of the photo that kind of extends beyond the image, so it looks like there's some depth to your image. Like that, just that simple design hack, like, well, I can almost guarantee you'll just immediately boost creative performance.
Exactly. Like, we could have an animation in a story where the story ends, and we know ways to draw the eye down so that it looks at shop now or learn more or different call to actions.
I enjoyed one that you guys posted. Someone, posted this sort of template that showed, you basically just looked at an image. Maybe we'll include it in the show notes here if I can find it, but it was like, you will read this first, then you will read this, then you'll read this. And it's such an interesting thing to go through because you actually literally are reading it and you don't for a second you do exactly what it tells you to. And you realize that's naturally where your eye flows. You really have to learn that fundamental of where to put what information where, I guess, right? And is that a feeling thing or is that a textbook thing?
Textbook.
Can you tell us? Like, is it too long to get into? Is it like what?
Oh, man, I've been put through design boot camp, and it takes years to nail this stuff down. So right now with our designers on our team and our video editors and animators, we're teaching them the fundamentals, and it takes time, and we still are learning more and more of what is going to create eye strain and what is going to be visually aesthetically pleasing. So
I like it.
yeah, it's hard to talk about within a few minutes of what these basics are, but every designer needs to know them when they're working with something that's such a small area that we have.
And well, you know, and just before we wrap up, I'd love to hear like, where are your favorite places to go, your favorite resources? You know, where could our audience go to learn, you know, to maybe create their own little creative boot camp? Do you guys have some favorite spots, favorite resources?
I don't have any off the top of my head. Design school is great. I learned through mentoring or having a mentor. I think any designer coming into the field, I would 100% suggest volunteering for an agency and getting your feet wet. And if you can just grab somebody a coffee, maybe they'll show you a couple tips. You know, there are years and years that people need to go through for this design boot camp until they really understand the fundamentals, but they're crucial for making ads stand out.
I'm no designer, but I like a website called Peloton, which just gives me you just put in a color and it shows like it has all these different spectrums that show all the different colors that kind of work with that color. And I've had a lot of success just sort of being able to, make things look decent just by using like the mathematics of color a little bit. I know, Robin, you use color so much. Like, what is it? Is it a feel thing? Do you use tools like that for that? Or are you just sort of like going by what feels right?
Just what I've learned from other mentors.
These secret books.
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing is, sorry, Cam, is just that you can go through Pinterest or you can go through Instagram and follow these other designers and like look at what they're doing and what are they doing right, and understanding contrast, hue, saturation, visibility, and all these different things. Try to understand why these colors look great together.
They make me.
I was gonna say like some really easy like things to look up, just like on Instagram, like UI gradient like is a great resource through Instagram. And like if you just like hit the little toggle and all the other suggested accounts, I guarantee you'll find like 10 more that are along the same lines as UI gradient. That's a great resource.
Nice.
One that I found super helpful when it comes to like, again, more like UI design, Refactoring UI is a great book that I would suggest to anyone. There's lots of good content in there to check out. But it is worth noting, like the design that we're talking about, of course, like needs the fundamentals that Robin and like we're discussing. But I feel like we've stepped into this like weird niche, like performance design category that like not a lot of people talk about. So like, just like, I can't help but suggest to people who are looking to get more info on this stuff, like go find like the top 10, top 20, top 30 advertisers, brands, etc. that you're striving to be, and like go look at what they're using for Facebook ads, Instagram ads, replicate a lot of their best practices, like, because that's what's working. And then of course, like groups like Facebook Ad Creatives Only or other Facebook kind of like groups that are collecting people or like-minded people specifically for like performance creative, like that, those are great resources.
Another thing as well, like, is especially if you're a DTC brand, and especially if you're kind of like just starting out, or you're kind of in that sort of like bringing it from 10 to 100 or whatever stage in your growth, like don't feel like you don't have the resources available to you for creative output, right? Like some of the biggest things, one of them being iteration, right? So just going back to what you point out there, Robin's designs for that homeware brand, and like, you know, the color changes. Like if, say for example, you wanted to, you're at the early stages of a new campaign, new product, and you just want to like throw content out there in a DCT, battleground, whatever. Like iterations can be as simple as having, like, let's say for example, you have an image concept, for example, that has proven to work, and you want to try and find more variations of that to work, right? Simply like, you know, changing colors on it, changing a CTA on it. Like you could make like 10 different images. You can make 20 different images from one image. And that ability to like just rapidly produce iterations of something that's worked before, it's not rocket science.
Yeah.
but it's the key in a lot
Yeah,
of ways.
Evan and I have worked for a company, and they have, you know, a countless amount of products that are different colors. And with every different ad that we create for the different product that has a different color, we change the background so that the color is consistent with the product. So immediately the product doesn't stand out from the background, but the eye loves consistency, especially when it comes to color. So when you look at the ad, you see the product, you see the consistency with the color in the background and text and other things. And it might give you an opportunity to make this, maybe you want the text to stand out more. So you have the text be white on top of this red, while the background is red, the product is red, and maybe the footer is like a different type of red. And you want the copy to say 15% off now, and have a call to action or something like that. But using the consistencies in the ads is a big help.
I love it. I have one final question if you guys have time. On the media buying side, we always like to talk about this concept of surfers on the wave. So we're going to test different bid strategies just to have another surfer on that wave that might work that day. They get reset after the end of the day and they go out on the wave again, consistently wanting to have as many different feelers on the wave as possible. Is that true with creative as well? And so when we start an account, I'm wondering, like, what do we have formulas that we're going to do? Okay, we're going to do some image ads, we're going to do a video ad, we're going to do some UGC. Like, do we have, in terms of surfers on the wave, how many bases do we cover when we're looking to kind of take on an account in terms of kinds of creative? Evan, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, in my experience, like it very much depends on where an account is at in its life, right? Like if we take on an account that's existed for 3 years, it has 3 years of creative data in there, if depending on their creative performance. If it's a very young account, a very new brand or whatever, very fresh, very cold pixel, trying to just test, like concept test, right? Like try to just think of every single form, like creative format, whether it's like a video, a static, and then like go into UGC, polished images, founder stories, you could have like explainer videos, whatever it is, trying to just get as much out as possible very early on, and then being able to see that early data come in, and iterate where you start seeing those early wins. I don't know if that really answers.
I love it. But at scale, are we just running the kinds of creative that work best, or are we always testing new surfers on different parts of that wave?
Always testing new stuff.
Always, for sure.
Yeah, like the iterations kind of become your foundation and your like baseline, your control effectively, right? So like we'll be bringing in new concepts, new angles, new ideas to test against our control. And that will depend on the funnel as well. Like if we have a top of funnel angle that crushes, let's bring in new angles and test it and see how it performs against the control.
I love it. Have you guys heard any of the rumblings on Facebook side about them limiting the number of creatives that they're going to allow to be tested?
I have seen some posts internally about it. I don't think it's affected anything too much yet.
No,
but no, I
gonna
feel
be
like I'm not sure what's going on, but yeah, it's a bit creepy.
As from what I've heard of it, and this is just from what I've heard about it, it's very much it's not going to be too it's not going to be that like bad a thing, or too disruptive. From what I've seen, it's more just like just stopping people from running a ton of ads that are not getting spend effectively, especially in like a DCT or something like that.
Well, that's good to know. You've set my fears aside. I want to thank you all for coming on the D2C podcast today. This was a great all killer, no filler. And how many push-ups? Who's winning the push-up challenge in just this group here?
Oh God, definitely Robin.
What are you at, Robin?
I think I'm at 380.
You've
done 380 push-ups?
Yeah.
Well done.
Apparently Alex has done 782. Just for reference, we've got about 3 hours left in the contest, and we've done a collective, give or take, 4,000 push-ups.
I've done 0 of those.
The hardest working creative team. But Evan, my favorite thing about you is you can plank indefinitely.
I can plank indefinitely. Yeah.
That's pretty good. Nice. Well, we'll do a team plank next time. Thanks for coming on, guys. If you haven't already, go to d2cplus.com. If you want to know more about working with Pilothouse, go to pilothouse.co and get hooked up with the creative team here. We've got some interesting things I think we're putting together in the new year regarding the creative team and your ability to work with us. We'll have some really cool announcements, I think, coming out soon. And yeah, thanks again. Have a great weekend, fellas.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.